A man can admit when he's at fault, and that's usually seen as a good quality to have in yourself. My confession, I've spent like 10 hours on this game, and I haven't even managed to unlock the final ship upgrade. An opinion I'll die on is simple. Playing shovelware browser slop games is one of the few ways for you to better appreciate the games you have. Like, I would never have realized how not as bad of a game Lego Ninjago is hadn't I played LOL Beans on Google Chrome. Some so-called intellectuals would call the relationship I have with this specific game, however, a sunk cost fallacy, which is a fancy way of describing those who are in too deep to stop playing or doing anything or whatever. And yeah, I see it. However, to justify the long amounts of time I've spent on this game, I'm going to be making a video about it. That'll show 'em. Whenever it comes to these browser slop games, besides how interesting the games themselves can be, nothing about them will be more interesting to me than the sites they're hosted on. There are hundreds of free browser game sites out there, each with hundreds of games stored on each of those sites. Some of these sites are objectively better than others. However, in the case of the game I shall be covering today, its history is quite interesting. One day I was browsing Microsoft Edge in school whenever I noticed that there was a new thing on the sidebar area thing. Clicking on it led to a page on MSN, Microsoft News, that stored all of their games. All of these games, while most basic and lame, one specifically kept my attention, that game being Cave Forever. But then I realized something further. This game was in fact not made by MSN, but instead was made by a separate game company called Forever. Going to their site, they house several of the same types of games you'd come to expect from one of these browser game sites, except here they're all made in-house. And the only one I actually think is pretty interesting is the one called Cave Forever, so I should probably actually go talk about the game itself, so, here I go. On a fresh restart, the game greets you with a very simple tutorial that tells you what you'll be doing for the presumable rest of your life. By using the directional keys, you can drift in 5 directions, not 8 though, because using the S key will do you no good. Anyways, the control in this game is honestly pretty good, all things considered. The game is responsive, which is always good, and floaty without it being to a fault. It is very easy to accidentally pull off a pretty cool move by pressing as few keys as possible. Which brings me to my next point. The reason using few inputs is a good thing. The fuel tank. By pressing the directional keys to move, your fuel will deplete. Thankfully, you can use the level platforms to refuel. In the higher levels, the tank empties at a snail's pace. You can skip 11 platforms at a time. However, as you get deeper into the cave, you lose your fuel very fast, to the point to where I would have to do a no fuel praying fall to several platforms. I suppose this simulates how at lower depths there's more pressure or something like that. The tutorial also teaches you about these chests that you can see every few platforms or so that contain these little gadgets. These things suck. So the general idea is that when you unbox one, you can put it on your guide to improve things like acceleration, fuel tank, shield max, that's all fine and dandy. The issue comes from the fact that 9 out of 10 of these chests you open will have the discs that are worse than yours or the ones that are the same level as yours. So you just have to wait until you can somehow get your hands on the upper level discs. This entire system would go on to define Destiny 2's business model. But I wouldn't even mind this if you didn't lose all your discs when you level up your ship. But either way, you can level up your ship by feeding these purple gems you can pick up all around the world into your ship. These first few ships are easy enough to get through, until you get to this ship, and I hope you like seeing it because this will be the last ship you will ever see. I have not even gotten close to unlocking this thing. The gems themselves are interesting as well. The yellow ones just add on to a chest unlocking system or whatever, but the purple ones are the good ones. These can be spent at the shop for amazing deals, such as lasers, and magnet. The game doesn't really give you much direction after the tutorial in terms of things to do because it is a high score based game. Besides these challenges that just recycle the same instructions with slowly increasing numbers attached to them, something I always found interesting was the area above the cave. This place has all the upgrade junk you'd expect, but up in the clouds you can actually see the bonus levels, which I think is a really neat detail. Bonus levels, speaking which, will be found randomly in the cave. By watching an ad or paying some gems, you can go up and make your money back tenfold if you don't screw anything up. That is if. Also, the last general thing to mention are the shields. These are your lifeblood. Some really good discs can increase your shield carrying capacity, which is the best thing they can do for you. Getting more shields is easy enough, but keeping them is what will let you stay alive. Now that's all just general info, not actually saying how it feels to play the game. So here are some things I felt complaining about that I could think of at the top of my head. Every single obstacle here is easy enough to handle once you know what you're doing. Like the mines and falling rocks are interesting, but they're not going to get me after like my fifth death to them. What will get me are these stupid things. These are the homing thistles. These things will come in 3 different levels, with each being more annoying than the last. Basically, they do what you expect. Once you get in their area, they'll start homing on you. The first 2 levels are easy to make explode. That's the easy part. The 3rd level ones are the real stinkers, because these guys can more or less copy all of your movement down to a T, so all you can do is pray you can go fast enough. This is secretly a reference to that one scene in The Incredibles where they're in that plane. Despite me saying a lot of generally negative things, I do think this game has a lot of depth and complexities that I don't think anyone else would really come to expect from a game like it. And honestly, I'll give it the crown of my favorite browser slop game. Actually, never mind, I just got the Among Us skin in LOL beans. Now here's a good question. Would I recommend this game to the average gamer? Heck no, man, I can't have someone beat my high score of level 115, are you mad? So, what did we learn today? To not fall into sunk cost fallacies? To not play really mediocre shovelware games hosted on sites that care way too much about how many ads they can give you? No, those can't be it. I think what we learned today is to never skip these bonus level platforms. Like you're almost always gonna make your money back every single time. You'd be a fool not to take that deal.